Is there a right or a wrong way to tip on a cruise? While crew is always going to appreciate the extra money when it comes from guests, there are some that say that this way of tipping is bad cruise etiquette or even can be insulting. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, this video is not meant to discuss cruise gratuities in general. After all, I think we all know that tipping in society has gotten out of hand, but giving gratuities to the crew on cruises has been an accepted practice for years. And after all, the cabin attendants, the waiters on a cruise, they are actually really making our cruise experience better. So if you're somebody who doesn't agree in general with tipping, then chances are either way you're going to think that this is a bad idea. But for many of us who do give tips on a cruise, this has actually stirred up a little bit of a debate. Now, I am going to explain the situation, but before I do, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. Okay, so here is the situation. John Heald, Carnival ambassador, shared a photo, and I've seen it in the past on his Facebook page. And basically, the photo is of a cabin, and in the cabin there are beds, and written out in dollar bills are the words, "Thank you." And this is meant for the cabin attendant as a tip that is given in a very creative way. Now, I've seen this photo or even other similar photos that John Heald has shared in the past, but this time he shared it with commentary or a message that was left for him. Now, basically what this commenter suggested is that when John Heald was sharing these photos of tipping on a cruise in this way, that he was virtue signaling, and as well that it really was a wrong way to give a tip to the crew. But it did get me thinking, because again, I have seen this photo or similar photos before, and I always wondered, is this really the way that we want to tip crew? It is pretty nice and it is pretty cute, but is it the way? In any case, I started to read through the comments to see what other people had to say. And it seems like really this has become a very big debate. Now, I'm going to share my own thoughts, but first I did want to share with you some of the commentary that people left. Now, one commenter pointed out that this does take additional time. So for that cabin attendant to now be scooping up or cleaning up the money from the couple of beds, it does take them extra time. Now, it may only be 30 or 60 seconds, but this is given on disembarkation day. And that is really the day that's also embarkation day. That is the busiest day, the turnaround day for the crew. So that just adds extra work. Now, this commenter pointed out that what if every guest did that? How inconvenient that would be and how much extra work it would add to the crew. Now, of course, there was also the opposite opinion. So another commenter thought, of course, people are always going to find something to complain about. Now, after all, this person did give a tip and it probably did bring a smile to that crew member's face. Now, another person brought up something that I think maybe there is a point to this. And the commenter said, you know what, it is virtue signaling, but it's not virtue signaling on John Heald's part. It is virtue signaling on the part of the person who took the picture and posted it for the world to see, because they said, after all, that person is posting the picture to say, look how great I am, look how I gave that tip to the cabin attendant, and they're not really taking the time to say how great their cabin attendant was. Now, I did think that that was an interesting point of view, to not only have left the money in this way, but to actually send in the photo. So let me know what you do think about that. Now, by the way, I chose some of the comments that were like the most upvoted. So these were really representative of what many people seemed to think. Now, somebody else had the opinion and said, you know what? It is a cute gesture, but it's just more for that cabin attendant to clean. Why not just give the cabin steward money in an envelope instead? Now, somebody else had pretty strong feelings about it and said, this is actually a silly way to give an adult a tip. Bring a thank you note, write a personal note of thanks, put it in an envelope, or even hand it directly to the cabin attendant. Scooping up dollar bills is impractical and unnecessary. Now, it wouldn't be a tipping or a cruise gratuity video if I didn't mention this one. I'm Australian and I find tipping awkward. Pay people a living wage and don't expect the public to subsidize the staff. Now, of course, this is not limited to Australians. There are people in the UK that tipping is really not so much part of their culture, and even some people that are in North America who just disagree with this practice. Now, perhaps you might agree with this comment. Miserable people complain about everything. It's hard to believe that the cabin attendant would complain about money that could help their family. And I do have to agree. I do think no matter how people tip, that the crew genuinely appreciate it. Now, I particularly liked this comment and thought it was interesting. This person said, this is actually a good question for the cabin attendants and not for the passengers. Now, this person went on to explain that they had worked in housekeeping in the past. And when people did do something that was a little bit cute, a little bit out of the ordinary, it actually was a bit special and it did brighten their day. Okay, now since this is a debate, I'm going to share with you my thoughts. And I'm not saying that I'm right on this. However, when I took a look at this picture, I think it looks like it's all single dollar bills. Let me know if I'm right or wrong on that. But I did think the idea of having to scoop up single dollar bills from across two beds, I don't know. That seemed to me that it went a little bit beyond cute, and it did become a little bit of work for the cabin attendant. Not that they still would not appreciate it. I'm definitely not saying that. So no matter how people tip, I think it's a really nice thing to do. But I do think a nicer way is to actually write a note of thanks, especially for this person who obviously they wrote out the words thank you. So it does seem like they genuinely were very thankful. So I do think, at least in a thank you note, you could write a little bit more about the impact that the cabin attendant had on your cruise. And I'm not saying they're going to keep that card, but I do think that handwritten notes, they are often very appreciated. Now, alternatively, the money could have just been placed in an envelope or even in a larger denomination. I think that that money could have been handed straight over. So for instance, if it was a $50 bill, I'm not sure if there were $51, but if there were, I do think it is more practical for that crew member to be able to get that larger denomination or that larger bill. Now, of course, we're not going to solve all of the world's problems in this video, and not even everything about crew gratuities in this video. So I do have another video where I really went into details about things people may not be aware of in terms of tipping on a cruise, who to tip on a cruise, where your tips are going, etc. So I'm going to leave that video right after this one, but I'd love to hear from you. Is there a right way and a wrong way to tip on a cruise? And did this person do the right thing? Should we be writing out words in dollar bills, or should we just hand the crew member some cash instead? Please let me know your own thoughts, whether you are a passenger or a crew member. Please let me know down in the comments below. Now, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now, and happy cruising.